Good evening. Tonight on Regflix, 456 retail investors will play 6 children's games. Each game corresponds to one feature of a European regulation. The prize is a comfortable retirement. The forfeit is a unit-linked insurance contract with a 6.4% annual reduction in yield. The players were recruited the way they always are. A stranger on a station platform, a glossy brochure, the phrase "capital protected, subject to conditions." They each signed a document they did not read. That document had a name, The Kid. The key information document, 3 pages, of 4, no images of yachts, mandatory since the 1st of January 2018. The regulation that produced it is called PRIIPs, Packaged Retail and Insurance-Based Investment Products. Regulation EU number 1286/2014. Born of crisis, raised on shame, crowned in shame again 4 years later, when the regulators looked at what they had built and quietly redrafted it. 5 rounds, 15 minutes. The kid, both kinds of kid, will survive. Whether the player does is another matter. It is 2008. Somewhere in a branch of a respectable European bank, a 63-year-old retired dentist is being sold a Lehman Brothers structured note. He is told it is like a bond, but better. He is shown a brochure with a sunset on it. He is not told that the principal is contingent. The issuer is a New York investment bank that will be filing for Chapter 11 in approximately 10 weeks, and that the product is, in the legal sense, unfit for him in every dimension a regulator will eventually invent. He signs. 3 months later, Lehman files. The dentist's pension halves. He writes to his MP. His MP writes to the European Commission. The European Commission opens a file. This was the problem. Across Europe, retail savers were being sold 3 categories of product that looked identical, behaved similarly, and were governed by 3 completely unrelated rulebooks. The first was the UCITS fund, a well-behaved child, supervised since 1985, fitted with a KIID, 2 eyes, since 2011, polite, 2 pages, charts allowed. The second was the unit-linked insurance contract, supervised by the insurance regulator under a different directive, sold by an insurance broker, with no comparable risk disclosure and a commission structure that no one wished to print. The third was the structured product, the dentist's note, supervised by, broadly speaking, no one in particular, with a marketing prospectus drafted by the legal department of the manufacturer and reviewed for accuracy by the legal department of the manufacturer. 3 identical retail purposes, 3 different documents, 3 different risk languages, 0 comparability. The dentist could not have known. The regulator decided he should have been able to. And so, on the 26th of November 2014, Brussels published Regulation 1286. It said, in essence, if you are a packaged retail product, you produce a KID, 1 format, 3 pages, standardized risk, standardized costs, standardized performance scenarios, manufacturer liable, no exceptions, eligible to play, my friends, structured notes, unit-linked policies, with profits contracts, derivatives sold to retail, structured deposits, AIFs marketed to retail, ETFs, and, eventually, UCITS funds, who got a special 4-year vacation that lasted 7, not eligible to play, plain shares, plain bonds, sovereign debt, occupational pensions, term life insurance, 456 players, they have all signed, none of them have read, the game can begin. The first game tests the player's understanding of risk. The doll will turn her back. The players must move from one end of the field to the other. When the doll turns, the players must freeze. The doll's name is Young He. Young He is, for our purposes, the summary risk indicator, the SRI, printed in the second box of every KID. It is a number from 1 to 7. 1 means very low risk. 7 means the dentist is about to cry again. The SRI is not a feeling. It is calculated by formula, by combining the market risk measure, a VAR equivalent volatility measure, taking the past 5 years of returns and squeezing them through a stochastic model, and the credit risk measure, the credit quality of the obligor mapped from credit ratings to a 1 to 6 grid. The two are merged in a matrix in Annex 2 of the Regulatory Technical Standards, and out comes a single integer between 1 and 7. It is, with respect, the most cinematic piece of plumbing in European financial regulation. Red light, player 042, a Belgian pensioner, is holding a unit-linked product with an SRI of 6. She thought it was an SRI of 3 because the brochure had a picture of a tree on it. She moves. The motion sensor in Young He's left eye registers the discrepancy. Player 042 is eliminated. She is, in regulatory parlance, missold. Green light. Player 109, a Dutch dental hygienist, has read the SRI on her KID. It says 4. She is invested in a balanced UCITS. She understands dimly that 4 out of 7 is the middle. She does not move. Player 109 survives. She is, in regulatory parlance, adequately informed. The lesson, players, is that the SRI exists so that you may compare. A structured note at SRI 6 is more dangerous than a money market fund at SRI 1, and crucially, the manufacturer cannot pretend otherwise on the front page of the document. They tried. The RTS would not let them. There is a color-coded bar. The needle is the needle. 312 players advance. 144 do not. The second game. Each player receives a key information document. They have 10 minutes to carve out, without breaking, the 7 mandatory sections. The shapes, my friends, are these. 1. What is this product? The type, the term, the objectives, the intended retail investor, the umbrella, the triangle. 2. What are the risks and what could I get in return? The SRI we have already discussed, plus 4 performance scenarios. The circle. 3. What happens if the manufacturer is unable to pay out? Credit risk disclosure, a small mean shape, the star. 4. What are the costs? Entry, exit, ongoing, transaction costs, performance fees expressed as a reduction in yield, the umbrella with the curl at the top. This is the one that breaks. 5. How long should I hold it and can I take money out early? The recommended holding period, the square. 6. How can I complain? Small, easily forgotten, the dot. 7. Other relevant information. The polite shrug, 3 pages, a 4, no more, drafted by the manufacturer, who is liable for its accuracy under Article 11. If the KID is misleading, inconsistent with the binding contractual documents, or in breach of the format requirements, the retail investor has a private right of action. That sound, players, is player 217, a small Italian asset manager, who has just realized that the cost section of his KID does not match the prospectus. The reduction in yield is understated by 38 basis points. The biscuit cracks. The pink jumpsuited guard approaches with the red pen. National Competent Authority sanction. Public censure. Article 24. The Dalgona, players, is the manufacturer's craftsmanship. The shape must come out whole. The umbrella with the curl must survive contact with reality. 241 players advance. The rest are, in regulatory parlance, the subject of an enforcement decision. The third game is the one we do not like to discuss. Each player must walk across the bridge. At each step, they choose between two glass panels. One is tempered, one is ordinary. The ordinary one will not hold. The 4 panels at each step, players, are these. The stressed scenario. What you get if 2008 happens again, mid-holding. This panel always holds. It is made of disclaimer. The unfavorable scenario. What the worst 10% of historical outcomes would have produced, reasonably tempered. The moderate scenario. What a median outcome looks like. And this, my friends, is where the panel breaks. The favorable scenario. What the best 10% of historical outcomes would have produced, tempered but slippery. When PRIIPs came into application in January 2018, the performance scenarios were calibrated against the previous 5 years of returns. That 5-year window happened to be 2013 to 2017, the longest, kindest bull market in living memory. The result was that in 2018 and 2019, a kid for a leveraged equity-linked structured note could legitimately tell a retail investor that the moderate scenario was a 12% annualized return. The favorable scenario approached 30. The product, of course, lost half its value in March 2020. ESMA noticed. ESMA was displeased. The European supervisory authorities issued a joint statement. The Commission opened a review. The financial press, never kind in these matters, christened the entire performance scenarios regime misleading by design. On the 6th of September 2021, the Commission published a delegated regulation amending the methodology. Stressed scenarios were toughened. The favorable cap was constrained. The reference period was lengthened. The moderate scenario was forced to behave like an actual median, which is to say, my friends, that for 3.5 years, the European Union's flagship retail protection document was telling pensioners that 12% was a moderate expectation. The glass bridge, then, was rebuilt mid-game. Players who walked across it in 2018 were betting on tempered panels that the regulator herself had not yet tempered. This is, in the language of the trade, a known limitation. 130 players advance. The final game. 2 players remain. The kid has survived. The retail investor, exhausted, slightly poorer, but not eliminated, stands on the body of the squid. Across from her, the old man, the manufacturer, smiles. He says quietly, "You have done well, but the rules are about to change again." The limitations of PRIIPs are now public knowledge. First, it is too long despite the 3-page limit. Retail investors, when surveyed, do not read it. A 2022 ESMA study found that the median time a retail investor spends with a kid before signing is 11 seconds. Second, costs are presented as a reduction in yield, which is mathematically correct and almost universally misunderstood. RIY 2.3% sounds like a fee. It is in fact a prospective annualized drag on a forecasted return. 2 different things. Third, the performance scenarios, even after the 2021 fix, remain awkward. They are backward-looking. They are presented per recommended holding period. They do not accommodate annuities or with profits in any natural way. Fourth, the scope is uneven. A plain share, riskier than most structured products, has no kid. A sovereign bond, capable of being defaulted upon by, let us say, a peripheral euro area member, has no kid. A simple corporate bond, no kid. Yet a capital-protected structured product, 3 kid, in 3 languages, all conflicting. And so, on the 24th of May 2023, the Commission tabled the Retail Investment Strategy, RIS, proposing, among other things, a digital layered kid, interactive, scrollable, with the headline summary visible first and the technical annexes one click below. A value for money benchmark. Manufacturers must justify that the costs of their products are reasonable relative to the benefits, with a peer group comparison policed by ESMA. Tighter rules on inducements. The commissions paid by manufacturers to distributors, which PRIIPs disclosed but did not constrain. A modernized definition of the professional client, narrowing the door through which retail investors are sometimes nudged. The RIS package is winding its way through the Parliament and the Council as we speak. The compromise text emerging in 2025 was, predictably, less ambitious than the proposal. The digital kid will arrive, the inducement ban will not, but the principle remains. PRIIPs was the first regulation to insist that every packaged product sold to a retail saver come with the same 3 pages. It was clumsy. The performance scenarios were embarrassing. The cost section is still misunderstood. The scope is still patchy. And yet, my friends, the dentist of 2008 today would receive a kid. He would see an SRI of 7. He would see the unfavorable scenario calibrated against an actual stress. He would see the entry cost. He would perhaps still sign, but he would no longer be able to say he was not warned. The kid will survive. The player, this time, might. Next time on Regflix, the games are over, the piggy bank is empty, the contracts have been settled, the prizes wired, the survivors flown home on private jets that, technically, do not exist on any flight manifest. But somewhere in Brussels, a new game is being prepared. No green tracksuits this time, no children's songs. The players wear suits, the board is a balance sheet, the front man is a woman in a tuxedo at 6 in the morning, and she answers to no one. Somewhere in Madrid, player 456, a retired schoolteacher, 6.25% in her pocket, is about to discover that her piggy bank is, technically, a subordinated bond, and the rules have changed. Somewhere in a war room with no windows, a man recites Article 18 of the SRMR like scripture into a cold espresso. The doors lock on Friday at midnight. They open on Monday at 6. Whatever happens between those hours happens in silence. Whose creditors take the loss? Whose creditors always take the loss? There is no red light. There is no green light. There is only the resolution weekend. The briefcase is opening. Coming soon. Pulp resolution. Bank recovery and resolution directive.